Hi, I'm making a video today about what happened to me at work, and I'm eating my food. This is a dish I make from bean noodles. Mm. I'm half Japanese, so I thought I'd do a different take, even though I had a stressful day at work. This is my snack. I actually make this for health reasons. It's siphon bean threads, Asian bean threads. And what I do is I soak this in water, and then I fry it in some sesame oil, onions, green onions, some miso paste, and I throw in some sesame seed. And I use a cast iron pan because I don't use Teflon or aluminum in my cooking. I'm very health conscious. A Japanese doctor, my mother told me, said that this is good for your health. I think these noodles absorb toxins from the colon. So it's I'm very health conscious, but I just wanted to show this dish. This is typical of how I eat. I eat mostly Asian Japanese food, and this is something I cooked up as my snack. One of my favorite dishes. I love bean threads. The Japanese version of sukiyaki uses this, but I make a real simple one. I fry it in the sesame oil, throw in some sesame seeds. I put green onions, regular onions, and then I also put in a little bit liquid aminos, which is kind of like soy sauce. This is delicious. This is how I like to eat. I eat Asian. I have health issues, and Asian food seems to agree with me. Now I'm gonna, now, let me lay this aside for right now. So you guys, on my marriage list, there isn't much I can eat. The Japanese food agrees with me. I like it. Here's an email that I sent to Brent earlier today. October 25th, 2011. Dearest husband, what a day I had at work today. It seemed every customer was a Jesuit and they were all up to no good. The strategy for today was to try to get me mad so I'd say or do something the Jesuits could use against me. It amazes me how well those Jesuits know how I do my job. Their obsession over me is really sick. This is good. About every other customer hurled insults at me. I eat pretty healthy, and not all my food tastes good, but this is delicious. When I eat this, I don't even feel like I'm suffering. And I cook this for my health. And what's interesting is because I put the miso paste in here, I'm sorry I'm changing the subject, because I put the miso paste in here, since I've started eating this, I haven't had any hot flashes. Any menopausal women out there? I'm in menopause. You might want to try this. This is delicious. Go to an Asian food grocery store, get bean threads, cook it in a little bit of sesame oil, put some miso paste in there. That's the paste they use for miso soup. Put that in there, add some water. You soak this for about 10 minutes, or you can get it already made. It's siphon bean threads. You put it in a fry pan, a little bit of sesame oil, green onions, regular onions. I throw in some sesame seeds, and then I fry it in miso paste that's been diluted, and I throw in some liquid aminos, which is like soy sauce. Since I've been eating this, my hot flashes are practically gone. It's delicious. Anyways, what a day I had at work today. It seemed every customer was a Jesuit, and they were all up to no good. Their strategy for today was to try to get me mad so that I'd say or do something that the Jesuits could use against me. It amazes me how well those Jesuits know how I do my job. Their obsession over me is really sick. About every other customer hurled insults at me, while they practiced unfair and unreasonable expectations of me as a Walmart worker, and it was on purpose. I'd hear comments like, Looks like you cleaned your counter enough for a surgical operation. This was a comment made right after I wiped up quickly after a raw chicken. I can see I did it. This is an email that I sent to Brett, by the way. So I got to make a correction in here. So I always wipe up after raw chickens on my counter. I have a degree in health. And this is something that I always do, and now the Jesuits wanted to make a big deal over it now. They strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. This is from the Bible. I answered, I doubt that I made it that clean. I'd have to clean the counter a lot better than this for surgery. That was a guy who's a Jesuit man. Another favorite ploy for today was to give me an instruction or hand me something, and then a split second later give me another instruction and hand me something else. Then while I'm still holding the first two items in my hands or trying to bag them or whatever, and because it takes more than 2 seconds, and I'm not exaggerating about the time expectations from the customer, to put the item in a bag or whatever I needed to do, the customer states, oh, you forgot my other stuff on the counter. It needs to be rung up. To which I answered, I'm sorry, but I'm not that fast. I don't operate in a split second between items. This expectation by the Jesuit customer that I could ring up 5 to 20 items all within 2 to 5 seconds happened to me all day with about 20 Jesuit customers. One lady came to my register with a very uppity attitude. Actually, just about every customer today had an uppity attitude. She handed me some organic bananas inside a bag, which normally ring up by the barcode on the bag. The barcode didn't work, so I typed in the 5-digit code where it usually rings up with one price per bag. But today, nothing went the way it normally does at my job. The only way I could get the bananas to ring up was to weigh them and ring them up by weight. The lady then emphasized to me that the sign said they were about 25 cents a pound. That's what the sign says, the customer emphasized. So while I tried to get the bananas to ring up, I asked one of the managers how to ring up these bananas. The lady customer then got really irritated and said, I'm really busy and don't have time for this. Forget it. So the manager comes over and I try to tell her to forget it, that the customer doesn't want the bananas anymore. The manager weighs the bananas and says they ring up by weight. While I'm talking to the manager and stating that bananas in a sealed bag at Walmart usually don't ring up by weight and that nothing is going the way it normally does today, the customer butts in, you're not listening. I told you if the bananas are more than 25 cents a pound, I don't want them. She looked at me with fire in her eyes, grabbed the organic bananas, and stormed back to produce to get regular bananas. And on it went today. I had incidents like this about 100 times. And this is how it went all day. Each customer was looking for a fight, and I could tell I was set up with each one. Either the barcode wouldn't work, or the Jesuits would take advantage of what they knew I didn't know. Like the customer who came to my register and plopped a heavy item from electronics onto my counter. She plopped this big, huge item onto my counter. I mean, it was huge. It took up the whole counter. That had to have its security wrapper removed. I was going to tell that customer she didn't need to lift that heavy item onto my counter. But Jesuits love to give me a backache or to irritate me. And I could tell she looked irritated. She stated, sorry about bringing this up here, but no one was in electronics and I have no choice. I said, oh, that must have been so frustrating. So sorry. And I could tell I was set up. But of course, my register didn't have the device needed to remove the security wrapper, so I had to lift the heavy item to another register in order to remove the security wrapper. The customer can't take it off by themselves. In the meanwhile, the customer looks at me with steam in her eyes. I'm in a hurry, she says. Then when I come back to lay the item down so that I can ring it up, the next customer has already laid their stuff on the counter. Can you remove your stuff so I can lay this down and ring it up? I tell her. It was a huge item and took up the whole counter, and there was nowhere else to lay it down. Oh, I thought you were finished, the other customer said, and put her stuff back in the cart. The first customer looked at me with irritation. I ask her, because the register prompts me to ask her, if she wants the 1-year replacement plan. Yes, I want it. Then I noticed that I don't have the brochure needed to give her information about how to use the 1-year replacement plan, and I'd like to give it to them as common courtesy. I can't find the brochure for the replacement plan, but if you go to customer service, they'll have it there for you. I can tell by looking at her that I said the wrong thing. She looks like a steamboat. There's no smile on her face. I go to look for this brochure and can't find it anywhere. In the meanwhile, the customer looks like a steamboat ready to explode. I yell at my fellow workers, not in anger, but just like, hey, are there any replacement plan brochures near you? A coworker brings one to me and I tell him, this is not the brochure. It looked like one for a maintenance plan. Yes, it is, he said. I looked at it and realized that it was, and that Walmart had changed the brochure and consolidated the replacement plan brochure into another brochure that covered both the replacement plan and the maintenance plan. Oh, no one ever tells me anything. I had it right here at my register. And then a manager just happened by and finally responded to my request for management to show up, and he states, oh, yes, they changed the form. I hand the customer the form, and she says nothing, but has steam venting through her eyes. She looks at me like I'm an idiot, and then because I didn't realize that I had the brochure right at my register, and that's how most of my day went. With each customer, I was set up, and Jesuits who can read my mind and know all my memories and what I know about my job and what I don't know about my job, which they like to capitalize on, made sure to emphasize what I don't know and to make the way I normally do my job seem deficient. Each customer hurled insult after me, most of which I ignored and responded with humor, but the customers weren't laughing. They all came to me with their jaws clenched and their eyes vicious. Some customers have done this to me for years, but lately it's gotten much worse, and they are even more obsessed over me than ever before. And more of them are being unreasonable, vicious, and unfair. What's happening is the Jesuits are really nervous about something. Apparently, Brent and Vladimir are doing something with this Church of Gail that they want to set up for me or something else, and it's making the Jesuits nervous as hell. Another favorite Jesuit ploy is to lift heavy stuff from the shopping cart that should stay in the cart. Yesterday, one guy lifted some heavy water up onto the counter that he didn't need to do and almost put it on top of my hand. He did it so quickly, I didn't have time to remove my hand. And Jesuits are quick. My co-workers were part of the plot today. I could tell many of them were Jesuits today, like the one who stated when I realized that he was working on my employee number so that I couldn't get into my register. Oh, it's probably good I worked on your numbers. That should bring up your items per hour. That's IPH. Insinuating that I'm slow. I ignored him because I could tell the Jesuits were looking for a fight. But of course, all the bags fell off when the customers grabbed them, and I had to put them back up, so it's kind of hard to go fast when everything goes wrong. Or the card doesn't take, and I have to put it in a bag. I have to put a bag over it to make it work. I'm used to having things not go smooth, but usually customers at least show some understanding about it. But today they jumped on me about everything. Oh, don't put my card in a bag. That's not necessary. Jesuits usually reserve the nastiest customer as the last one for me for the day. They've been doing this to me for years. My last customer for the day tried to ring up her food stamps order without her card and ordered me to ring up her order without the card. I had the number memorized, and yesterday someone did it for me, so it's not a problem. I called management and asked them if it's okay to ring up a food stamps order without the card. Of course, the answer was no. The young lady customer was outraged and demanded to talk to management. Management said it could be a fraud issue and they couldn't do it. After management left, the lady took the shopping cart that had her canceled order with all her stuff in it, and she was ready to go off with it without paying for it. And, because she didn't have her food stamps card. And I said, wait a minute, lady. You said you haven't paid for these. She said, oh, yes, I have. You told me I rang it up and paid for it. Let me show you, I told her. I showed her the screen. It says, we only re-rang 4 items, and you have more than 4 items in your card. So what happened was that the manager aborted the transaction, and then she showed me what she wanted to get, which was 4 items, but she had like 10 or 20 items in her cart. Part of them were from the food stamps order that was canceled, and the manager left the cart behind, and she was ready to go off with it with all the stuff in the cart when she only paid for 4 items out of the 20. So I said, ma'am, you've only we only re-rang 4 items and we didn't pay for this other stuff. And you have more than 4 items in your cart. The lady screamed at me, you are a disorganized mess. She threw some bags at me and stated that she paid for it already. Oh yeah, this was a Jesuit lady. This is what I'm dealing with, the Jesuit customers. And she stated that she went on and on with some convoluted explanation about how I explained to her that she rang it up, while she stated that I misled her and didn't treat her right, while she quickly grabbed bags with unpaid and paid stuff and put them all over the place, enough to confuse anybody. Finally, I got the lady to pay for her stuff that she had in her cart, and she abandoned the rest with steam in her eyes, angry at me because I wouldn't let her steal. And that's how my day ended at Walmart. She was a typical customer that I had today, though she was slightly worse than the previous ones that I had throughout the day. I had about 100 customers like her today, and then there were the co-workers who got on me because I wanted to have enough napkins for cleaning at my register before I started my shift to take over at their register, or some other form of straining at a gnat while swallowing a camel. See the Bible description of the Pharisees and Sadducees, which is a brilliant description of the Jesuits. Anyways, Brent, I'm used to this Jesuit crap at work, but today was a winner. The Jesuits were relentless today, and without mercy. I'm going to read this on a YouTube video and ask Bible-believing Christians to pray for us, as it's a real shame that Brent and the men on my marriage list have to travel everywhere by transporter technology. They can't go on a plane because the Jesuits might crash the jet. If they land anywhere, there's a danger that their evil Jesuit clone might be next to them and kill them. And then, just like Brent Spiner's evil Jesuit clone was harassing him and following him everywhere and trying to kill him, and almost did. See my YouTube video about Hugh Jackman saves Brent Spiner. And so now poor Brent has got to go everywhere only with transporter technology, because that way they can ensure he lands someplace safe where the shield is up and the Jesuit clone isn't there, or at least they hope it's going to be safe. You say, well, how are all these Jesuits getting to your store? They're putting bugs in our scanners so that they can outwit our scanners and so that criminals can come into the store. So we need your prayers. And this is what I had to deal with all day, because these criminals are getting inside my store. Anyways, poor Brent and the men on my marriage list, they got to travel around everywhere with transporter technology. We're getting better at this. So it's making it seem like their life's not so abnormal to the public, whereas Brent is able to make some television appearances and stuff. But he's got to use transporter technology, because if he drives in a car, the clone could be hiding in his back seat, or he might be around the corner ready to hit him with a gun or something. So we need the prayers of all Bible-believing Christians. The Jesuits are on a rampage against me and the men who love me, the men who are on my marriage list. Brent, you were awesome today. You communicated with me brain to brain all day and were your usual supportive and awesome self. You counseled me all day long like you normally do, and without you I couldn't keep my sanity. I thank God for you and for all the energy, passion, and love you've invested in every niche of my life. Now that I'm home, I'm over it. I'm eating my food, enjoying myself. But let me tell you, work today was no picnic. And I don't like how the Jesuits are picking up their attacks against me at work, and that's why I'm making this YouTube video. When I taught school in 2003, I had Jesuit students who deliberately misspelled during a spelling bee. How does a teacher teach in a situation like that? You see how it goes with me? Because those Jesuits are so obsessed over destroying me, because I'm Catherine the Great and King David. And they even admitted on their website, orderofthejesuits.com. I love you, my awesome husband, Brent, and I won't be losing any sleep over this. But those Jesuit bastards and bitches need to be exposed and punished, as we discussed, brain to brain, all day. So, we really need prayers of the Bible-believing Christians. Please pray for us. This is just unreal. Unreal.